New at 10, a massive amount of drugs are off the street tonight after a law enforcement operation on the range. Look at this haul confiscated by the St. Louis County Sheriff's Office and the Lake Superior Violent Offender Task Force. Saturday and Sunday, they executed a series of search warrants in rural parts of the county, as well as the cities of Virginia and Gilbert. And the result of the long-term investigation, 19.5 pounds of meth, 1.2 pounds of cocaine, nearly $22,000 in cash, and the arrest of several people who are now in jail charged with first-degree drug crimes.